Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany. This is the Brittany React Show. And on this show, we talk all things entertainment news, movie news, strike news. We have a lot to talk about today because I missed most of last week. So today, we're talking a lot about Marvel. We have a few other things to go over first at the front. But most of this stream will be about Marvel because there's a new book that just came out. I think it's called the MCU, The Rise and Reign of Marvel or something like that. And there's lots of like behind the scenes information and secrets that have come out about Marvel from over the years and like things we didn't know about. And I think it paints a very interesting picture of Marvel and how it hasn't always been as put together as it may have seemed, and how, especially recently, it's definitely not together at all. It's actually kind of a mess. So we're going to talk about that. There's hints that Marvel might even reboot, so we're going to talk about that as well. There's a whole member question about it, so we're going to have a very in-depth discussion about it. How are you guys doing? Hi, Ethan. Yes, I did move. Hi, Em. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, Divine. Hi, Robert Bell. Hi, Laura B. Hi, Nicholas. Hi, Little Joe's Animations. Hi, Josh Loves Movies. Oh no, the MCU is turning into the DCU. That's the worst thing you could say, but you might be right, unfortunately. Hi everyone who's here, and thank you to each and every one of you who is here every day, and thank you to Tanya for being a lovely moderator, as usual. She does a great job each and every day. Thank you, Laura B. Alright, and Yellow Umbrella is here as well. Did I say your name? I know you haven't been here for a while, but I haven't been here for a while, so you haven't actually missed much, is what I was trying to say. Alright, so let's just go straight into the box office news, actually, because Martin Scorsese's movie just came out, Killers of the Flower Moon, starring Lily Gladstone and Leonardo DiCaprio. I haven't seen the movie yet. I do want to see it. I've been too busy with moving and unpacking. I haven't been able to see anything. But we do have some box office information for it. Unfortunately, it's not actually good news, because the movie only opened with $23 million domestically, which is not good at all because this movie cost over $200 million. So this movie is definitely not making its money back. Now, this is an Apple movie, so I guess I don't really know how to judge it because Apple just put this in theaters to try to get at least some money, but originally it was just going to go to streaming. So I guess this is technically a streaming movie. I guess that's how we count it. So I'm sure Apple would have loved more money, but I think this also just shows you that like Christopher Nolan's brand is like super powerful, because everyone was like, how in the world in Oppenheimer, a drama that's 3 hours long? Because this movie is 3.5 hours long, by the way. It's a very long movie. But Oppenheimer was also a very long movie. It was a very serious adult drama, but it made almost $1 billion. And I think a lot of people were hoping, because that movie did so well, that maybe Killers of the Flower Moon would do as well, or at least half as well as that one. But so far, it's not looking to be the case. Again, another, I think, example to show that I think Barbenheimer really did help Oppenheimer a lot. But yeah, this is, I think, a bad sign for just the adult drama genre if you have people like Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio teaming up together and they can't do better than this. I think that's pretty bad. And on the budget that it has, it's definitely going to lose a lot of money, even though I guess Apple doesn't care because Apple has a ton of money. So I don't know. I don't know. Has anyone seen this movie? Does anyone plan on seeing this movie? Again, it's 3.5 hours long. So, very long movie. Josh Loves Movie says, why would Apple give that kind of budget? Even Oppenheimer costs way less. I have no idea. I guess they just thought, oh, Martin Scorsese, let's give him a blank budget because we want whatever big name talent director to work with us. I'm pretty sure that's what they thought. I think they just want talent to work with them so that they can gain a reputation and they can get more talent to work with them. So I think this is more, at least in my mind, Apple was thinking like, okay, let's just give Martin Scorsese however much money he wants to make whatever movie he wants Because if we establish that we are very friendly with directors and that we'll work with them, then we'll get more people like Martin Scorsese to work with us. So I guess this $200+ million for this movie is sort of like an investment for more talent. That's kind of how I see it. And I'm pretty sure that's how Apple sees it too. Yellow Umbrella says, the fact that they can't even spell the title right proves that no one cares about this movie. Did they spell it wrong? Oh, they did! I didn't even notice that. They spelled Killers of the what? Flower Moon? Oh, oof. Yeah, that's really bad. Yeah, I have not really felt much interest in this movie, like, whatsoever. I feel like this movie very much catered to just, like, the film bro crowd. So I think that's pretty much the audience that showed up for it. But, I mean, I guess we should champion more movies like this. I'm always saying I want more original films to do well, so I do wish that this had done a little better just because it's original. But, you know, it's a tough sell, I guess. Original movies are a tough sell. All right, going to strike news. So this is just the only bit of strike update that I have for you guys today. Most of what we're talking about today is the Marvel stuff. I'm getting to that, I promise. But I did want to just update for you guys that SAG and the studios are planning to renegotiate or come back to the negotiation table tomorrow. So, I mean, that's something. I still think that at this point, because negotiations are so late in the year, I don't think anything is going to be able to, like, even go back into production until at least January because of the holidays and everything. So, basically, Hollywood's film schedule is pretty much effed, no matter what happens tomorrow. But at least it's promising that they are, like, meeting again so soon. I was a little afraid that things went so badly last week that they weren't going to talk again for weeks, but that's not happening. They are talking again pretty soon. So maybe things will go differently. Fingers crossed. I have no idea. But again, no matter what happens, I don't think that anything's going to actually go back into filming until January anyway. So next year's going to be very interesting. Deadpool has already had to move and be delayed because, you know, there's no way it's going to make that May release date because they're only halfway through filming. I'm sure a bunch of other movies are going to have to be delayed as well. In fact, a number of you in the chat, I'm sure a number of you might actually remember, when the SAG strike first happened, I had a whole live stream that was just dedicated to me pointing out movies I thought were going to have to be delayed because of the strikes. And I pointed out all of the movies that were currently in production when the SAG strike went into effect. And so far, I've been right. Almost all the movies I've been telling you guys are probably going to get delayed have been delayed so far. There's still a few more that haven't been announced yet that I think will be. But yeah, unfortunately, I think that live stream is proving to be very, very right because I think next year, especially during the summer, we're not going to have like much big franchise, blockbuster, really anything big at all coming out. There's just going to be a very sparse year of movies next year. So that's going to suck, honestly, for everyone. How are you guys feeling about this, though? The Blue Gecko Nerd says, can't they for once just make up their flaming minds? I'm hoping they come together this time. Here's to hoping. Oh, why do you have a bad feeling, D Divine? Did you hear about the Disney 100 thing on TikTok? No, I didn't. I'll have to look that up. Adlad75 says, haven't seen it, but we'll check it out on streaming. Don't know much about the history. Oh, you're talking about Killers. Yeah, I think that movie just looks like a hard sell from the beginning. Like, even the trailer just kind of looked like the movie was going to be very boring and confusing. But anyway, just let's see what happens. I don't really have a lot of high hopes, but who knows? Who knows? Okay, so going quickly to AI news, and then we'll get to entertainment news. So, AI news. This is very, very interesting. So, actor Clark Gregg, who you guys might know as Agent Phil Coulson from, the MCU, he actually testified in front of Congress talking about the No Fakes Act I was telling you guys about. It's an act that actors are trying to get in place to protect their likeness from being stolen from AI. And he had a whole speech. I won't play the whole thing. I'm not going to play it at all, but If you're interested, I do recommend going to just listen to it. It's 6 minutes, so it's very long. But he just goes into a very long speech about how actors' likenesses should be protected, not just from like use in other acting spaces, but also from porn, from like any use case at all. So this is very interesting to me because it's obviously something that actors are clearly worried about. He did bring up the fact that, as we talked about the whole Tom Hanks situation, Tom Hanks already had his likeness stolen for a commercial. He talked about the fact that there was an AI Drake and The Weeknd song that went viral, even though neither the real Drake and The Weeknd were actually involved. So this is something that's happening more and more. So I'm happy that we're having actors already testifying in Congress about it, because it should be made illegal. So I'm glad that this is happening. Caitlin A says, I'm confused why the studios weren't quick to make a deal with SAG after the writers had a contract. Well, the whole issue was that SAG wanted more money, and the studios were very upset about it, and they said no. So that's why the whole conversation broke down. I think the AI conversation is interesting, but we have no idea of knowing right now where it's going to lead. But I think it's developing very, very quickly. All right. So let's go to entertainment news now. And we're going to talk about Netflix for a second, and then we're going to get to Marvel. Because Netflix is on some ish. Netflix is on some ish. Okay. They're raising their prices yet again. Didn't we just have this conversation just like a few months ago? Didn't we just say Netflix was raising their prices like maybe 2-3 months ago? I swear it was that recently. But they're raising prices again. Basic plan will be $12. Premium plan will be $22.99. I think this is getting very expensive, especially the premium plan. We're getting over $20 a month now. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Netflix, again, is like the one streaming service that people are just going to hold on to as long as they can. But I can't see every streaming service trying to charge $23 a month. That is not sustainable, and not every streaming service is worth that price. I'm just saying. So I think this is just, again, very unsustainable and crazy. Is anyone going to unsubscribe because of this? Is anyone thinking this is crazy like I am? Like, how many times this year, just this year alone, has Netflix raised their prices? I feel like it's been a couple of times, right? Little Joe's Animation says, and this is why I screen record every show I watch on Netflix. This is crazy. Little Joe's! I think you just confessed to a crime. Yellow Umbrella says, Brit gonna be worried about pirated after the FBI might have knocked on her door. I feel like a lot of people might go back to pirating, not gonna lie. If every streaming service starts costing $23, no! I mean, that's gonna become more expensive than cable. Joshua Munn says, Netflix lost me when I couldn't use my friend's account anymore, and that was years ago. Oh, wow. You haven't had Netflix for years, and you don't feel like you miss it at all? Yeah, they do need to stop the madness, Titania. Tex Vora says, there's over 100 peeps watching. Oh, that's great. Yes, please, if you're watching, please make sure you hit the like button. That would be really great for the channel, and it would really help spread the live stream out to more people. Also, subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Okay, Yellow Umbrella's gonna go for the ads. Okay, Trevor still uses cable. What's it gonna take Trevor to cut the cord? I mean, I guess a number of you might still haven't done that yet, so what's holding you back? Robert Bell says, I always use illegal websites to watch everything. I unsubscribe to all streaming companies. Not you guys confessing your crimes. This is really funny to me. Hi, Evil Connor. But yeah, I just had to update you guys because I feel like, again, we just keep having this conversation. It's crazy. Anyway, speaking of Netflix, they released just a couple of days ago their first images for the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender series. I'm a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender fan. As many of you guys know, I've seen every episode of the original show. cannot wait for both this version, and they're doing a cartoon movie with the original actors, well, not the original actors, but the original characters grown up. I'm also excited for that. But I think this looks very promising so far. I mean, we got Firelord Ozai. I don't know how many of you guys here are familiar with these characters at all, but I think so far they look pretty good, actually. This is Uncle Iroh. Looks a lot like the Uncle Iroh I think he's supposed to look like from the cartoon. This is Azula, who's the only one I think looks very different from the cartoon, but, you know, reserving judgment for the show. And then we have Zuko. And I like that we can actually see a scar this time, as opposed to the last time we got a live-action reboot and we could barely see it. So yeah, I don't know. I think this has promise. I'm still withholding judgment. But it could be good. Is anyone as excited for the show as me? Does anyone like the images? I actually think they look very good. Like, especially Firelord Ozai. Like, I don't know how you can get any more perfect than this. Like, this is Ozai, you know? Like, this is him. So I think this looks very good. Compared to yesterday, no, not yesterday, but on Friday, when we were looking at the live-action Percy Jackson images, I think these look a lot better. Not gonna lie. Shuja's One Piece quality gave me hope. Yes, exactly. Because One Piece was so good, it gives me a lot more hope that maybe this adaptation will be good. Although, the thing that gives me a little bit of pause is that the creators left the show because they didn't like what Netflix was doing. And that's why we have 2 different versions of Avatar: The Last Airbender coming out in the next couple of years. So that's concerning. But which is weird, because everything I'm seeing from this show so far actually looks good. So I don't know why the creators thought it was so horrible they had to leave. So I'm still concerned. Josh Loves Movie says Zuko's burn scar should have covered more of his face. Oh, I can see that. It is just a kind of a small area. I guess we're just thinking of like the cartoon where it kind of literally takes up a quarter of his face. I guess that would have been nice. I guess they were going for more of like a realistic burn look. But I get what you're saying, Josh. Adlan75 says, I'll give it a chance. Hopefully good as One Piece. I didn't hate the M. Night version. What? How? Have you seen the original show? If you haven't seen the original show, then maybe I can understand how you like the movie. Maybe. But yeah, okay. I think this looks good. Very much looking forward to it. Now, Netflix also just released a trailer for their Squid Game reality series. Remember Squid Game? Remember that phenomenon from like 3 years ago? They're still trying to keep it around. They're still trying to make it relevant. So they made a whole reality series out of it, where you got a whole bunch of people to actually go through the Squid Games, like for real. Like they even had to stay in these bunkers, like the same bunkers from the show. They even had to go through the same staircase. They even had to like actually get to the other side to play, you know, that same game from the show. I mean, they even like fire a paint gun at you, so that's how you know you're out. Like, it's pretty intense. I think this kind of looks interesting. I think it low-key kind of defeats the whole point of the show, which was critiquing this. And Netflix is kind of like celebrating it. But you know, if you take out the whole meaning of what the show is actually trying to say, the reality series on it could be very interesting. I did like the original show quite a lot, so I don't know. I'm kind of interested in this show. Are you guys gonna watch this at all? Anyone curious? Oh no, D Divine is not interested. Oh, Yellow Umbrella says, just watch the Mr. Beast video. I did watch the Mr. Beast video. It was very good. But you're right, it does kind of look like Netflix watched the Mr. Beast video and thought, hey, we could do that. He basically just ripped us off. Why don't we just do it? Because it does kind of look like this. Except it's not just going to be like... Yeah, it's going to be very different games, it looks like. Because, like, what is this? This looks very different from the bridge challenge from the show, but I don't know, is this Battleship? Like, what? I have no idea, but I'm actually very curious. I don't know. I think I'm actually gonna watch this. Wait, you say they're copying Mr. Beast? I think Mr. Beast copied them first. So if they are copying Mr. Beast, it's because Mr. Beast copied them first. Oh, it is like the Hunger Games. I mean, they're both very similar. I thought they were gonna make a season 2 as well, but I think the creator seems to not really want to. And then I've seen a lot of comments from the cast that are like, "We definitely want more money." So I can see Netflix being like, which is unfortunate. So they did this instead, made a reality show, which would have been a lot cheaper. So from a business sense, that makes sense. But like, I kind of wish we did get a season 2, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Finally, we are at Marvel. So, oh boy. Oh boy. So, Marvel is going through a lot. As I told you, there was a book that just came out called The Rise and Reign of Marvel Studios. And in it, there are lots of first-hand accounts and interviews and like secrets that have been exposed about the inner workings and behind the scenes of what's been going on from Marvel, all the way from Iron Man up to, I believe, Quantumania. So up to relatively recently. So even through Phase 4, which we all know was a huge problem. So we've learned a lot of really interesting things from this book, so I'm going to go over some of the like most interesting things that came out of it. And I think just overall, I think the book really paints a not bleak, but definitely a sad picture of current Marvel compared to old Marvel, and just how unsure they are of just anything, and just how much of a mess it is over there right now. So we're going to talk about it. But has anyone read this book? Does anyone know what book I'm talking about? Does anyone care about this book? Some person skywalking said, just give Squid Game 2. I don't think they're going to do a season 2 at this point. It's just been too long. Blue Gecko Nerd says Netflix is kind of hit or miss for me. Sometimes they'll make something good, and then sometimes they'll make really good garbage. Yeah, I think that's how most people feel about Netflix. But anyway, so the first thing I want to talk about that came out of this book is that Kevin Feige is basically hinting a lot that he wants to converge pretty much any Marvel movie that's ever been made together. So we're talking not just the past, like, X-Men movies that weren't originally part of the MCU, but possibly also combining, like, the Venom movies and the old Fantastic Four movies, and, like, any movie that has ever been a Marvel movie ever, even before the MCU. Like, he's saying all of those movies could possibly combine to in one movie in the future, or maybe possible, like, mini movies, in this whole multiverse saga that they're weaving. He said, you never know when timelines may just crash or converge. So I think this is saying that this whole, like, multiverse saga thing is not ending anytime soon. He definitely plans on keeping the MCU relevant by continuing to do all these cameos, by doing all these crossovers from, like, Marvel movies that came out decades ago. I think they're using that as a crutch at this point, just to keep interest alive. I don't know how long that's going to keep working. I think it definitely worked for No Way Home, obviously, but I don't know if like 3 years from now, is that still going to keep working? Like, are we still going to find, like, characters from, like, years ago that people still give an F about? I mean, I'm just being real. I don't know. I think there are only so many finite characters that you could bring back that people would actually really care about and actually go back to the movies to see. I just don't think it's going to work for everyone. So I'm a little bit concerned about this. And also just from, like, a storytelling perspective, I also think it's just going to make MCU, like, feel even more convoluted, and, like, the storyline feel even more like a complex, like, narrative mess. I just think that it's not, I think this is going to be a bad idea. I think it sounds good on paper to keep interest alive, but in actuality, I think they're going to find this was a bad idea. How do you guys feel about all this multiverse nonsense? Hi, T-Hits Haley. Joshua Munn says, so was Phineas and Ferb canon then in Star Wars because of the Star Wars comics? I mean, how far do they go? Are we gonna get Marvel DC crossover and other studios in Marvel Secret Wars? I feel like you guys keep throwing out the whole, like, DC Marvel crossover thing and Secret Wars, and I keep saying heck no. But at this point, I mean, why not? I feel like at this point, the Secret Wars they're trying to pitch to us is like, oh, you're gonna get, like, all the Spider-Men with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Daredevil and, like, oh, but we might bring back Steve Rogers. And it's like, okay, but is any of that going to feel earned? It's going to be cool on paper, but, like, is it going to feel earned? Like, you could have technically make that movie and release it by next year, but is it going to be the phenomenon that Endgame was just because you put all those characters in there? Like, I don't think so. I think the reason why Endgame was so big is because it felt earned, and people felt like it was a finale for something that had been building up for so long that people actually cared about what happened to these characters. Not just because people wanted to see them team up, but because they actually cared about the characters, like their fate, like whether or not they lived or died. Like, I don't think that just throwing in a bunch of random characters from a bunch of random movies across several decades is going to generate the same hype that Endgame had, because I don't think it's gonna feel earned. How do you guys feel, though? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm just being a negative Nancy, or whatever the saying is. Tex4 says, it's bad enough DC has dumbed down their movies to be like Marvel stuff. Have they dumbed down their movies? I mean, DC does have some highbrow stuff, but, like, I think that's like saying, like, oh, all DC stuff is highbrow and, you know, until, you know, they had to dumb it down for Marvel. I just don't think that all the DC stuff has always been that highbrow. I think that perception is only there because Nolan made The Dark Knight. Joshua Munn says 5 years from now is Avengers Secret Wars. Yeah, I know. 5 years from now, I feel like how much of this is anyone going to care about anymore? People are already losing interest in the MCU. 5 years from now feels like an eternity. I don't know. I don't know. How do you guys think these crossovers are gonna work? Or do you think, like me, it's just gonna start to feel very empty? Cal says there is no story cohesion, they're just playing with their action figures. Yes, it does feel like playing with action figures. It's like a 8-year-old got a bunch of superhero action figures and, like, has got them fighting together. And what sucks is that's kind of what DC, but mainly, I was gonna say that's kind of what Star Wars feels like. Like, Lucasfilm is just taking, like, Lucasfilm Star Wars action figures and just, like, putting them together and making them fight. And I feel like Marvel is, you know, becoming that, because this is what this reminds me of. But we got more to talk about, because there's a lot that came out of this book. So, Marvel was apparently pressured into announcing Fantastic Four and other projects that they were nowhere near ready for at Disney Investor Day. Now, what is Disney Investor Day? Now, do you guys remember in 2020, some of you may remember, some of you may not, but in 2020, Marvel and Star Wars, basically the whole Disney company, were made to go on stage and talk to investors and announce a whole bunch of new projects. And one day, Marvel announced 10 new Marvel shows, and Star Wars announced 10 new Star Wars shows. It was a big deal if you were a huge nerd at the time online, because it was exciting. It was exciting. It was like, you know, Star Wars is riding the high of The Mandalorian still, so people actually thought these shows might be good. And, Marvel was still at its peak, so people were still excited for the Marvel stuff. So, people were very excited for all this stuff that came out. But in hindsight, this day was a disaster. In hindsight, I think all of this aged horribly. I think I can't find the image from Marvel, but here's Kathleen Kennedy, who's the president of Lucasfilm, Star Wars, and all that. Look at how badly this just one image aged. Look at how many of these shows actually have been made, and then out of those shows that have actually been made, how many of them have been good, well received, or actually had high viewership? The only one that actually had all three is The Mandalorian. That's it. And then Marvel's batting average is not much better. This is the day they announced all those all those extra Marvel shows that we've been talking about and watching now. And some we haven't even seen yet, like Armor Wars. Apparently that was one of the other shows that they weren't ready to announce yet, that they got pressured to announce. And I think that just shows you that there is a lot of friction between Marvel and Disney right now. Clearly, they're not seeing eye to eye if they were made to do this. And obviously, if I were Kevin Feige, I would be feeling very butthurt right now. That Bob Iger basically forced my arm into announcing all this stuff I was not ready to, because I think he shouldn't have announced half the stuff that he did. Because we still haven't even got to half the stuff that he announced. And that was 3 years ago. And now fans are looking forward to all this stuff that we are just being strung along for, because we know it's supposed to come out. But it's just oh, sorry, that's going to be another year. Oh no, it's going to be 2 years from now. And it's this was announced 3 years ago. And I think that's also hurting the MCU. How can you get excited for something when you won't be able to see it for several years? It kind of dampens your hype a lot. Does anyone remember this Investor Day that I'm talking about? Arvin says people were so hype about Secret Invasion, and we got that cringe finale with Mother of Dragons be overpowered. I honestly don't know what they were thinking with Secret Invasion. I really think Marvel thought that show was going to be well received, and that concerns me, because they also thought, according to this book, that Quantumania was going to be well received, and that also concerns me. I feel like there's a taste level that's in question at Marvel, because why did they think those shows or that show and that movie was good? No one should have looked at that and thought they were good. Umbrella says the Investors Day was so fun. What happened? Yeah, I know. It was on the day of it, for any nerd who liked this stuff, it was like Christmas almost. And then years later, it's oh man, that's kind of where it all went wrong, right? Brandon WTF says, can we celebrate the downfall of the MCU now? Well, there are a lot of people who are very happy about its downfall, because there's a lot of people who have been oh, Marvel's killing cinema. Marvel's, ending the industry. So to some people, this is a good thing. This is an evil is being defeated. But even more, there's more to talk about. So, yes, Armor Wars. So essentially, we've been talking a lot about how visual effects artists feel mistreated because Marvel often doesn't know what they want, and they are asked to redo stuff constantly, even last minute. Well, Spider-Man No Way Home was no different. As we all know, they were still updating visual effects even after the movie was released. But apparently it was so bad that the movie never even had a finished screenplay, because things were constantly in flux so much that they were still completing the movie and figuring out the story even after they filmed everything, and they were just editing everything in post and fixing everything in post. So what we got as a movie was kind of a modge podge of taping pieces together and scenes together, because there was no real script, which I think is crazy and honestly insane that it ended up working out for them. The power of nostalgia, man. The power of nostalgia. But I think it also shows you just how much of a mess Marvel is behind the scenes, that you can't even have a finished script and your movie's playing in theaters. That's terrible. That's really bad. Some person skywalking says the toys just end up in landfills. Oh yes, both Marvel and Star Wars, I don't think any of their merchandise is really selling. You know what? As I've told you guys, I used to work in Disney World and Disneyland. But I worked in Disney World in 2017 when I would argue both Marvel and Star Wars were at a peak, because this was before The Last Jedi, but post, the first Star Wars movie. Sorry, drawing a blank. Episode 9. And this is 2017, so Marvel was still, like, very, very popular, seen very, very favorably. So this is, like, when Disney really couldn't do no wrong. And, like, there are two, in Disney Springs, there's a Marvel store, and there is a Star Wars store. And those stores were always popping. Like, those stores were full of people because the brands were just so popular. I went to Disney World, I think, was it last year? I went to Disney World pretty recently. And I went by those stores again in Disney Springs, and it was like there was no one in there. Big difference from just a few years ago. So even I've kind of seen, like, there's been a huge drop-off in just general hype and interest. Aaron Lopez says, I wonder if they did that for the second Spider-Man movie. There are moments where it's like different movies. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these comic book movies, this is becoming more and more of the case. Like, even the other Spider-Man movie, Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse, there are multiple versions of the movie out there because the movie also wasn't finished before it was released. So this is becoming very common because you can easily just fix something remotely because everything's so digital. You don't even need... That's why we're talking about the AI stuff so much. It's because everything's becoming so digital. You don't even really need to, like, have humans in there to, like, retool things. You just, just have a little digital effect and you change something. Why? Did it, Yellow Umbrella? Okay. Joshua Munn says Toby and Andrew weren't signed until 2 months into filming, so that report saying they signed right away was a fake scoop? Probably. Yeah, it sounds like they were hesitant to join. I'm glad that they did, but I don't think that movie would have made half as much if they weren't part of it. Also, Marvel wanted to cut Iron Man from Captain America Civil War and push for the airport fight to be superheroes versus super soldiers. Now, I just think this is a dumb idea. It's not really... I mean, there is some chaos behind it. Apparently, the Russo brothers threatened to quit over creative differences with the creative Marvel committee. Kevin Feige ended up siding with the directors, which led to Ike Perlmutter, who the names are not important. Basically, there was a whole bunch of, like, conflict and drama amongst the executives here. And I'm just pointing this out to point out the fact that there has always been drama behind the scenes with Marvel, but it does just seem like it's getting worse lately and that they can't do anything right. And also, I think this was just a stupid idea. This movie would not have been half as successful if this was not Captain America versus Iron Man, but just Captain America versus super soldiers. This would have been like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, which was not that interesting. So, yeah, I don't think this movie would have been as successful if they actually did this. So I'm glad they didn't. Joshua Munn says, like that whole scene right there is just a CGI scene. Same with that scene from Civil War. It might as well be AI. Exactly. That's why Disney wants to use AI so much, because most of their stuff is already digital. Once AI gets good enough and convincing enough, they're going to want to use it all the time, because they're already used to using assets like that all the time. But anyway, in fact, that's why, if we go referring back to the Agent Phil Coulson, Clark Gregg, testifying in Congress, that's why I think it's very interesting that it's a Marvel actor specifically that's testifying in court talking about, like, needing to protect your AI likeness, because he, of all people, would know that, like, he even, if you actually watch his speech, he talked about how he had his likeness scanned So he's worried about what Marvel's going to do with his image. And a lot of other actors in Marvel have already talked about that Marvel kind of forced them to get their image scanned. So they're all concerned about what Marvel plans to do with it. So I think it's very interesting how Marvel is kind of in the center of all of this. I think the day of reckoning for Marvel is coming for sure. Anyway, so apparently getting a certified fresh tomato on Rotten Tomatoes is really important to Kevin Feige. I brought this up because if I actually got the list here of all the recent Marvel movies, and a lot of them are not certified fresh. So let's look at it. So we got Secret Invasion, which, no one liked apparently. Guardians of the Galaxy, which actually was certified fresh. I told you guys I love that movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, not well received. I don't understand how the audience score was 82%. That makes no sense to me. Again, another Guardians of the Galaxy special that did get certified fresh. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever for certified fresh. Werewolf by Night, that was actually really good. Very underrated. That was certified fresh. But then look at all this other stuff. She-Hulk, no. Iron Groot, no. Thor, no. Miss Marvel, no. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Moon Knight, no. Okay, No Way Home, yes. But Hawkeye, no. Eternals, no. Shang-Chi, yes. What If, no. But what I'm trying to point out here is we're getting a whole lot more no's than yeses, or at least a lot more than they were in previous phases. So obviously quality is slipping recently because they're not getting as many certified tomatoes as they used to. And I'm sure Kevin Feige must be upset about that. They do definitely have a quality problem. And I even think a number of these scores are way too high. Like, why in the world is Thor: Love and Thunder 63%? Why is the audience score 76%? This movie does not deserve these high scores, okay? This movie deserves the same scores as Secret Invasion, in my opinion. So, I don't understand. This is way too high. But anyway. My point is that their stuff is not as, consistently well received as they used to be. Anyway, anyone surprised by any of these results here? Jojo Rod says, it's like a New York Times best-selling author type of deal. What do you mean? Nicholas says, I would never thought that Marvel would feel the need to compete with DC. Well, right now they're competing their way towards the bottom, which is very sad. Josh Loves Movies says, Marvel needs to make better quality movies and shows. Yeah, that's their main issue. You cannot have more Secret Invasions and Quantumanias. You cannot. And it sucks because it's like the one guy that's actually making consistently good stuff for them here is leaving to go, lead their competitor. James Gunn is leaving to go run DC, so, the one guy that's actually still making good stuff for them is leaving. Not good. Not good. Spider Fox says, I was hoping to see more comics-accurate Civil War with bombastic Spider-Man, my favorite character. I have no idea what they're going to do with Spider-Man. I bet they really wish they owned that character fully, but they don't. Oh yeah, so this is the main topic that I want to discuss today, and I do have a whole member segment about it. But it's the fact that because Marvel is having so many issues, their fan base is kind of turned against them. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but just the general fan online atmosphere has just been way more toxic towards Marvel than it used to be. Also, no one's watching Loki apparently. It's even me. I watched the first 2 episodes of Loki, but I haven't watched the 3rd episode yet. So even I'm still watching the show, but I just don't feel like I have to watch it right away. So that's not good, because I did feel that way about the first season. And I was doing a bit of my own research, just because I do this all the time anyway. I was kind of comparing, I was looking at the view counts on YouTube videos of, some YouTube channels, comparing the, reaction videos and breakdown videos from season 1 to season 2 of Loki. And I can just even see, everyone across, every YouTube channel All of their viewership is like half of what they were getting for the first season of Loki. So that can't be good for, how many people are actually watching the show. And then they just, as we talked about, they're coming off of Secret Invasion, which people didn't like, Quantumania, which people still make fun of. So they're just having a bad year. They're having a bad year. So they're thinking about rebooting. They're thinking if they do some soft reboot after the next Avengers movie, they keep some people they do like, they get rid of people they don't like, and they start a whole new universe with a new group of people. Maybe that'll save everything. How do you guys think about that? Do you think an actual reboot will save the MCU or not? I want to know. Oh, Angel Barrera. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much. Can we talk about how What If answered questions nobody asked? That's a good point. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? What does that even mean? Yeah, I didn't even watch What If, because you're right, Angel Barrera. I kind of asked myself the same question. I was like, I feel like this is a missed opportunity. Like, I feel like if a What If thing could actually maybe work, if they asked, did What Ifs for questions people actually cared about. Like, I don't know. Like, instead of doing what you just said, maybe they could have done, I don't know, what's something like actually interesting? I don't even know. Because I feel like what we did get was the best version that we could have gotten. So I don't know. I think that's why the whole What If concept is not, like, gaining traction. It's just, like, I don't think anyone's really interested in the What If. Because it's like, we got what we got and we liked it. But thank you for the super chat. Josh Loves Movie says they need to fix their timeline, which is much more than a reboot. Yeah, the timeline is a mess. I think they need to just clarify what the overall story is. Like, I feel like I don't even understand what the overall story is in the MCU. Like, what are we building to? What's the story? I understand Kang is supposed to be the bad guy, but he just got defeated by a bunch of ants. And then now he's acting goofy in Loki. So, like, is this the guy we're really supposed to be fearing? I don't know. Joshua Munn says Marvel's mistake was killing off Iron Man, Captain America, and Black Widow all at once. It tanked the Black Widow movie, and that's why the franchise is dying. I thought it was so stupid for them to release the Black Widow movie after she died. After Endgame. Like, that movie should have came out before Infinity War. That made no sense to me. I thought the timing of that movie is why that movie didn't do well. It made no sense to come out when it did. But I think at that time, Marvel was in the mindset that they could do no wrong, and that any movie they made would make $1 billion regardless. And I think they very quickly realized that's not true. But going to the member questions, because I did ask you guys, do you think a soft reboot will actually work? Do you think rebooting the MCU will save it or sink it? So let's see what you guys said, because I know you guys always have very insightful comments that I love reading. Alright, and if you want to be a member, just press the join button at the bottom of the screen. It does support the channel, and you do get to participate in our members-only posts on the community page, and you get your comment read here on the live stream. So, yeah, that's what we're about to do now. Alright, so Robert Bell, thank you so much for being a member, says, to be honest, if they did want to do a reboot, I think they should wait at least 2 years before they start any new projects. The way it gives people a break from Marvel and superhero content for a while, but I wouldn't be against it. The MCU is not the same without Steve or Tony in it. When they do a reboot, because I do believe that they are, I believe the rumors are true. Apparently in the book, Kevin Fiege almost said as much. But I think when they do the reboot, it should be more than 2 years. I think they need like a 4-year minimum, maybe even 5-year minimum. Like, they need a hard, like, just give people a break, make them miss you kind of a break. Like, kind of like the break that Star Wars is doing with their movies, the MCU needs to take a similar break. I think it's that important, because it's not just Marvel making comic book movies. They also have Sony, because, like, why are they making Madam Web? And they also have DC, obviously, unfortunately. So they have so many of these other studios making movies that also aren't very good. that are also clogging up the whole, superhero pipeline. So I think that everyone just needs a large break from just all superhero content. I think they all just need to stop making movies for like a few years and make people miss them again. Honestly, think it would help them. Robert Bell. Oh my gosh, I just read your comment here, and now you also have a super chat. So thank you so much. Why did they call the Avengers 2 the Age of Ultron when it was just one movie? That's true. Isn't an age a distinct period in history? Ultron should have been a big bad for at least 2 or 3 movies. No, you're not wrong. I remember people made this point back then too. Yeah, I think they called it the Age of Ultron just because it sounds dramatic. I don't think they ever actually intended there to be an age because Ultron was just a one movie villain. But I think that's honestly, and I think that's why they made Thanos a 2-movie villain, because I think they learned their lesson from Ultron and they realized that one movie is not enough to really establish someone as like a huge threat. So I think without having learned that lesson from Ultron, we might not have gotten the Thanos that we did. So that's how I'm choosing to look at it. Josh Loves Movie says, Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter are going to be as bad as Morbius. Yeah. Oh, man. You know what? I saw Morbius. I saw Morbius in the drive-in, in fact. And I know I saw it because I was there. My body was there. Physically, I was there in the car watching the movie. I know I was. But mentally, I must have been completely checked out or just totally disengaged because I don't remember a single thing that happened in that movie. Like, if I watched it again, it would be like watching it for the first time. Because I think I was just that bored and that disinterested in the movie. Like, I was just like, oh no, I think I checked out pretty early. Once I check out, it's hard to check me back in because I was not into that movie at all. But yeah, I think Kraven the Hunter and Madam Web are probably going to be up there as far as like very, very bad too. I just hope they're not boring. I just don't want them to be boring. All right, so Jordan Davis says, I think it would be beneficial for Marvel to reboot and recast the MCU, especially with the fact that a lot of people thought Avengers Endgame was the endgame. The director should also be reworked and replaced, specifically after Phase 4 and Phase 5 so far. Which director? There's a lot of directors. Honestly, I think Marvel needs to rotate like almost their entire client or creative talent list. I think they need to do like almost a whole overhaul or something. At least with their writers. They need to start hiring writers that have experience and haven't just written like 1 or 2 things. Because that's what Marvel has been doing. You know, a lot of people talk about, a lot of the creatives, they come out and they're like, oh, Kevin Feige or the producers and the executives, they're the ones that control these movies. It's not the directors and writers. And that's why they hire like really inexperienced writers so that they can basically control everything. And I think that leads to really subpar product because you're working with writers that aren't very good. So then you can't be very surprised that people don't like your stuff when you hired writers that aren't very experienced. So I think that's their big issue. They need to like actually hire people that know what they're doing instead of just like hiring lappies that just do what they say, which is essentially what they've been doing. Red Star says, I don't think that it matters at this point because a majority of people are already checked out or done with superhero movies. In my opinion, it doesn't matter what they do. It will not impress anyone right now. Oof. So we have a pretty much like, it doesn't matter if they reboot or not, nothing's going to help them. You know what? It could be true. A lot of people compare the superhero hype with like the hype of the Westerns. Like Western movies used to be very, very like big back in the day, like in the 60s, right? So it could be, because like the Western genre has just never recovered. Like there's never been a resurgence of that genre ever since. It could just be superheroes had a time. They were very, very popular in the 2010s. But maybe that's just their time is almost up. Maybe. I don't totally buy it. Maybe. I can see the era of like everyone paying attention to one shared universe kind of being over. But I think there will always be certain superhero characters that will always be popular. Like, I can see Spider-Man will always be popular. I think they'll always reboot that character. They'll always reboot Batman. I think they'll always reboot Joker. Like, there'll always be, like, those kind of superheroes, but I don't know, maybe just, like, the era of, like, any old superhero getting a whole movie being made is probably coming to an end. It might have a resurgence at some point, maybe, but it could just be kind of done. I don't know, maybe. Do you guys see this whole superhero genre having a resurgence, or do you think it's kind of like the Western, where it's just kind of like it's had its time, and for the most part, it's kind of done? Helixer says, maybe we need to go back to basics. Vampires and werewolf movies. Oh, you're speaking my language. Yes, please, can we go back to vampire movies? I never cared about the werewolves, but the vampire movies I was very much into. Just vampire anything. Cheetah Viper says, Hayden Christensen versus Doctor Strange would be cool. What? No. If we start getting Star Wars and Marvel crossovers, then I think we've just really lost the plot. Angel Pereira, thank you so much for the super chat. This is a problem in comics too. Once you reboot everything, it becomes very tempting to hit the reboot button when things get rocky. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, in the comics, they reboot things like every so often because, you know, the storylines get too chaotic. So I'm not surprised that they're rebooting since the comics have to do it as well. I just don't know if even once they do reboot, people are gonna, like, care as much. I don't know. I think it just really depends on how well they do the X-Men. People might care if they do the X-Men really well. But I'm nervous about how they're going to do the X-Men. I think that their last playing card is, like, if they can introduce the X-Men well enough to where they can get people to care about them, then they can make an entire saga just focusing on the X-Men, and they can probably be fine. But if they don't land the X-Men right, then they're done. I think that they're done. Cheetah Viper, oh, thank you again, says, I'm not sure what could save it right now. I guess get back to good writing. Maybe have smaller budgets, yes. The only thing that I'm currently enjoying is Marvel-related is Loki 2. I'm glad you're enjoying Loki Season 2. I am enjoying Loki so far. I have to say, I don't think I'm enjoying it as much as Loki Season 1, just because it is so much more serious and, like, I feel like the first one was just a lot more fun, and you could just kind of go with it more, whereas this season it's like, okay, let's have a chit-chat about time theory. And I'm like, I kind of like it, but it's also doesn't have the same energy that the first season had. So I can understand why it's not as popular. M82123 says, the MCU had a good run, but I think it's done for. Marvel lost its star power. It needs a good long break before even considering a reboot. I'm not really a fan of reboots, and also I feel that soft reboots can be confusing. That's very true. I'm, as you guys know, very against DC doing a soft reboot. I think it should do a hard reboot. I think it's ridiculous that it's doing a soft reboot because I think it's going to confuse everyone. Like, the average common person who doesn't pay attention to superhero news is not going to be able to understand why Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad's there, but Henry Cavill's Superman is not. They're just not going to get it, because I think that makes no sense. So I understand what you're saying. I am critiquing DC doing a soft reboot. So should I also critique Marvel having a soft reboot? Now, here's the thing. I think Marvel can get away with a soft reboot more than DC can, because at least for now, Marvel is still in a better position than DC is. There's still more characters in the Marvel universe that people do like than there are people in the DC universe that people like. I think DC just needs to start completely over from scratch, just because I think almost nothing in that universe is working anymore. And the fact, I think it's literally repelling people. Like, the fact that James Wan is, like, out here trying to convince people that Aquaman 2 has nothing to do with the Snyderverse or the DCEU is just telling of like how toxic that whole brand is being perceived right now. Marvel is not there yet. They could be soon, but they're not there yet. So that's why I think they can get away with a soft reboot, whereas I think DC definitely needs a hard one. That's why I think there is a difference. Yes, but thank you for being a member. Rhea Rue says, I do not know what could help them at this point. Personally, I'm bored and over them anyway. I wish them the best still. Hopefully they will not disappoint their super fans. Yeah, I feel like most people are just starting to become indifferent. Like, they don't even hate Marvel anymore. They're indifferent about it, which I think is kind of the worst thing to be, because at least your haters can still hate watch you or, give you engagement. If no one just even cares to not even hate you anymore, that just means you're really dead. Marilyn Cherry says, I am not a fan of soft reboots. They just add more confusion. Nevertheless, Marvel is in a tough spot right now. Sorry, I hope you're not hearing that. I am not sure there is a right decision to make. Yeah, I think Marvel has definitely painted themselves into a corner. I think that there is no 100% good decision that they can make to get themselves out. I understand why they're going with the reboot, because I understand that they realize there isn't a lot that's working, and they're probably trying to find a convenient reason to get rid of a lot of that stuff without, angering people, and a reboot sounds like a way to do that. But at the same time, you're right, a soft reboot could still just confuse the average person and make the universe even more confusing. So if they don't do it right, it could just make things worse. You're right. So hopefully they do it right. I really hope they do, genuinely. Again, if Marvel gets X-Men right, they could have another 10 years of just doing an X-Men saga and just doing X-Men movies. Like X-Men and Spider-Man, and that's it. But they have to get X-Men right. That is the only way that they can survive. Alright, where am I? Alright, Joshua Munn says, honestly, I don't even know if Marvel is even going to be around much longer to reboot. Maybe it's time to just end the franchise and take a long break like Star Wars did between Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens. Oh my gosh, that is a long break. When did Revenge of the Sith come out? Wasn't that 2004, somewhere around that? Force Awakens came out in 2015. That's one heck of a break. Yeah, that'd be over a decade break. That's very long. The world is going into a phase where movies are going to take a backseat like how it was in the 1940s during World War II. Y'all, what? You just can't drop World War II on me. People are going to be too focused on the horrors of real life. Where are you going with this? The only thing I think that could save Hollywood... Okay, people are going to be too focused on the horrors of real life to even care. The only thing I think they could save Hollywood after the pandemic... Sorry, just... I don't know. I told you guys I laugh when, things get tough. I'm just talking about World War III and the pandemic and the Civil War. Okay, anyway. But yeah, you're right. Although you're saying that people are going to be too focused on the horrors of real life to focus on movies, to play devil's advocate, I think that's why people are craving escapism even more now than ever. I think that's why Barbie did so well, because Barbie's dream, just aesthetic in production was just the perfect amount of escapism. That's why Avatar did so well, because Pandora is perfect escapism. I think people do want movies. People want escapism. I just think that Marvel is not Marvel. Well, yeah, Marvel and Hollywood in general is just not making enough escapism. They're making movies that force you to have to look at reality when they, want to put politics in it. And I think that is the last thing in the world people want right now in their media. And I get the whole argument that people make, movies have always dealt with politics for decades. That's very true. And I'm not saying we should never tackle difficult subjects, because we definitely should. But I think we are living in a very different era in 2023 where the last thing in the world most people want when they watch a movie right now is politics. I just think that we get enough of it on social media, which is a new element that didn't exist before. And I think that, as you are pointing out, Joshua, this very scary message, there's just a lot going on. So I get where you're saying that people are just too focused on other things to care about Marvel, but I think if Marvel was making proper escapist entertainment, that wouldn't matter. In fact, they would actually be benefiting from it. Oh, we have a new member! Canary Lotus, thank you for becoming a member, and I very much appreciate you and welcome you to the channel. Robert Bell, thank you for the super chat as well. There were to reboot the MCU, would love a younger actor to play Tony Stark, maybe someone in their early 20s. Who else could actually play Tony Stark, though? Can you imagine being the new actor that has been, casted to replace Robert Downey Jr.? That is a tall order, man. I don't know who could do it. I honestly don't think there's an actor right now today that could do it, especially in the 20s range. That's a tall order. I don't know. I would not envy that actor, actually. That's almost impossible. Joshua made Brittany depressed. Joshua, well, I'm about to make everyone happy to counteract the negativity. I'll check this out. It's okay, Joshua. I get it. I get what you're saying. It's okay to be negative. I get negative all the time on here. The only thing that I think would save Hollywood after the pandemic, which may return, World War... Wait, hold on. I missed this part. You can't... Joshua, there's so much in this statement. Which may return. Why did you just drop this casually? Wait, what? The only thing I think could save Hollywood after the pandemic, which may return. Huh? World War III and Civil War II. Huh? And all of the strikes, which may cause... the huge Deadpool 3 to flounder like all these movies did this year because Barbie and Oppenheimer, which that phenomenon is not happening again. I know! Wouldn't it suck if the whole Barbenheimer thing was like the last big hurrah for cinema for like years? Because it very much could be. The only thing that'll be able to save Hollywood is just to say screw it and do the ultimate crossover movie. Like, look up, during this live stream, look up Super Bowl, Superhero Bowl, Super Villain Bowl, Super Showdown Bowl, and Fanfictasia Episode 1. What is this? What ultimate crossover movie? You mean like Hollywood is just gonna throw all their stuff in a blender and make just one giant crossover film? That sounds awful. That literally sounds like the death of Hollywood. This post is definitely a bummer. Hollywood would have to make a live-action animation hybrid movie. Like, the videos combine the one super 3-hour-long movie like it's Fortnite, but on steroids? No! This movie sounds awful. Ready Player One on steroids? What? Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers? This just gets worse. Combined with other movies like Roger Rabbit and No Way Home and Deadpool 3. What? To even hope to even resurrect the industry. This comment, Joshua, is fascinating. I am loving this comment. Sorry. Every line, every sentence in this was just a wild ride. I had no idea where it was going. So you are pitching a 3-hour-long Fortnite-like movie on steroids that's like a combination of Roger Rabbit, No Way Home, and Deadpool 3 to resurrect the industry. Oh, man. That sounds intense, awful, and like it would kill the industry. I don't know about that. If we start needing to do like massive crossovers across like all the franchises, then I know they are really out of ideas. That would be sad. That would be. Do you know how depressing that would be, Joshua? I hope not. That sounds awful. I have to say no. I do not want that. And I don't think that would be the escapism people are looking for to escape the, as you say, the pandemic that plans to return, World War III, and Civil War II. So, you know, um, anyway, I thought this comment was very funny. So thank you, Joshua, for making me laugh. Sorry. Arvin says, Brittany, you need a week break after this comment. I think it did break me. Oh, sorry. Yes, I think this comment did break me, Joshua. I think you broke me a little bit. Anyway, Joshua again says, like, I don't even know if the Avengers Secret Wars is gonna get made, let alone make Avengers Endgame money. Yeah, I don't think Avengers King Dynasty is going to get made. I think they're canceling that. I think they're going to use the Jonathan Major stuff as an excuse to cancel it. And they're just going to go straight to Secret Wars so they can get to rebooting the universe faster. I think that's what they're going to do because it makes the most sense. Like, I don't even know it's going to be made. Especially not if Jonathan, I Saved Children from a Burning House Majors is involved. You know what? That should be his middle name. That should be his official middle name if he's going to make, stage videos like that high school video. But thank you, Joshua, again for being a member. It's just great comments here. Chevlin Jr., thank you so much for being a member, says, I don't think this is a good idea because Marvel has it all, and since Disney took control of them, they haven't really been making anything good. This will just be a DC 2.0. Wait, what? You think Marvel hasn't made anything good since Disney took over? Disney has had control of Marvel since the first Avengers movie. I think they've made a few good movies since then. I don't think they've started to fall apart since, until recently, really. They still have some good movies since then. Rachel Reed's Romance says, I think it's a mistake to even make a new Avengers movie. Possibly. Marvel has made a huge misstep putting this much emphasis on Kang. The way he's been portrayed is underwhelming compared to the years-long build-up we had with Thanos. Thanos' arrival felt like an event. Kang isn't as mysterious as in almost every Marvel project. A Kang Dynasty movie isn't going to interest most Marvel fans, myself included. Jonathan Majors is not going to have the draw Marvel thinks he will. It's just smarter to take a breather, spend 2 years planning out something that will make the fans want to watch and fully reboot. I fully agree. I don't think the whole Kang storyline was that interesting to begin with. I think they didn't make Kang an interesting enough character for us to care about him. As I said when I saw Guardians 3, I thought the High Evolutionary was a better written villain than Kang was. They could have switched out the main villain for him and I would have been a lot happier, to be honest. But I don't think they would have done that. Especially since James Gunn wrote him. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think they should definitely get rid of Kang Dynasty because I don't think anyone's really excited for that. They should just get to straight to Secret Wars, in my opinion. Josh Loves Movie says, Wish and Napoleon are being released on the same day, so they're calling it Wishpolian. I don't know if that's gonna be that's not a Barbenheimer thing. Even though I'm very excited for Napoleon, I'm actually gonna see that. I think it looks very, very good. Joshua Munn. Oh boy, what are you about to say? Not only that, but just like in the 1940s, when we were in World War II, and for example, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi on down to Cinderella all flopped because they couldn't release those movies into other countries that were at war with. Oh, okay. That's what's about to happen to the American films. Causing even more flops, possibly worse than 2023. Countries like China and the Middle East have already been banning movies to begin with. Imagine what it'll be like when Deadpool 3 comes out at the worldwide box office about to flop, and that's going to cause a collapse even worse than the pandemic. Secret Wars may not even make its Secret Wars, it may not even be made. It's nuts how quick the world changed from phase 3 to phase 4 and 5. Yeah. That's horrific. So what you're saying is that because of wartime, you're assuming wartime. Okay, so Joshua's living in the future and is trying to warn us about World War III. So he's saying World War III is about to break out. And we're going to have a whole bunch of countries that we can't show movies to, just like with Russia and Ukraine. Like right now, the US doesn't show any movies in Russia because of what Russia's doing to Ukraine. So that sort of thing can happen with a lot of other countries too, if we do go into wartime. So that's saying, like, by the time Deadpool 3 comes out, if we are in some major world war, there might not be even, like, a lot of countries we can release movies to. I think that's what you're saying, Joshua. Which would be tragic, sad, awful for a variety of reasons. Nothing to do with not being able to see Deadpool 3. That would just be like the I guess the cherry on top. Not the cherry, but more like the poop cover cherry. I don't know. It's just, you got me sad, Joshua. This is all very sad. I don't know. I really hope we are not gonna need to go back to 1940s Hollywood. I really hope not. That sounds horrific, but we'll see. We'll see. Slackjaw says, nope, no reboot. I feel like Disney needs to pick or focus on different ideas. People are superheroed out. Yeah, it's very possible even if they do reboot, this is not going to fix anything. Very true. RuPaul's Drag Race Superfan says, hey, Brittany, sending love from North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina. I'm from Greensboro, in fact. So I don't think that we will save them at this point. They should have a regroup and take a 5-year break after Endgame to come up with new stories. Also, Kevin needs to go. Oof. Kevin fired? Okay. The fact that he has no say that everything that Marvel has ever created is canon in the MCU messes up so many timelines. And it shows he is running out of ideas and throwing everything at the wall. I agree with that. I definitely feel like Marvel lately just feels like they're just throwing stuff at the wall. Yeah, you're definitely right, because what the heck are they doing lately? Also, they already kind of have a soft reboot. Basically, all the main Avengers are no longer there except for Thor and Hulk. Well, I guess after Endgame they were sort of planning to soft reboot. It just didn't really work because the whole plan was to have these new characters they introduced become as popular as the old characters. But that didn't happen because they were in a lot of really terribly written shows that made people actively dislike the MCU instead. So it kind of not just didn't work, but the plan just straight up backfired. Also, they already kind of had... I already said that. Joshua, oh my gosh, again, what are you going to say? The Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, shouldn't have even been made. Either they have comics with Secret Wars having Doctor Doom as the main villain, and they just refuse to even have him appear. Why is the Beyonder a Kang variant? That's so stupid. Kang is like Ultron level for the Avengers, but worse in the comics. He's not the main villain of a saga. This reminds me of when Disney revealed there was no plan for the Star Wars sequel trilogy. It's just such a massive oversight. Like, how stupid can they be? And Marvel knew people were going to lose interest in them after Endgame and just didn't plan accordingly, like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness when they announced it shouldn't have been what Deadpool 3 is, which I suspect they decided to have that go all out for the film. But honestly, with all that's been going on, it's not a guaranteed hit anymore. Like I've been saying, I don't think Deadpool 3 is a guaranteed hit either. I think it could be, but I don't think it's a guarantee. And I think that you're right. Kang should not have been made the main villain of this saga. I think that was also in poor taste. And unfortunately, apparently they only decided to make Jonathan Majors the main villain when they saw his performance in Quantumania, which again makes me question their taste level up there. Because A, they thought Quantumania was so good that the villain in that movie was so good that they were going to base the entire saga around the villain of that movie. That's the only reason they made Kang the main big bad of the rest of the saga, is because they saw Jonathan Majors' performance in that movie and they thought, oh, he's so good, we must make him our main villain. And I think that's crazy. You guys saw, I did like a whole roast live stream a couple of weeks ago where I just roasted the heck out of that movie because I had to watch it recently for you guys because you guys wanted me to talk about it. And I thought that movie, it holds up even worse on a rewatch. It's even worse on a rewatch. Can you imagine? It's worse. That movie is terrible. it doesn't hold up at all. If you're not a Marvel fan that cares about, the inner workings of the quantum realm and Kang and the people who live in the quantum realm, there's just nothing there for you. So the fact that they really thought that movie was just a home run is surprising. And I think, again, just shows there's like a disconnect in like what the executives think people want and what people actually want. But yes, they obviously did not have a plan after Endgame, and it shows. And it killed them. Or almost is killing them. Marvel has killed off any excitement and anticipation for them in the span of 2 years. They refused to capitalize on the hype for Spider-Man No Way Home, which ironically Sony did with Across the Spider-Verse, which people say is what Multiverse of Madness should have been, and I agree. Such a massive drop-the-ball moment. I don't understand why Multiverse of Madness was titled Multiverse of Madness when they showed like 3 universes and most of it was in a montage. Like a very brief montage. Like, I feel like what Everything Everywhere All at Once is what Multiverse of Madness should have been, but for superheroes. I think they didn't take the multiverse concept far enough. The only other time they really spent time in another universe, the only thing that was different was like the traffic lights were different and people dressed a little weird. And that was it. Like, I feel like that's just a very lame way to do a different universe. A very cheap way, too. Yeah, definitely they dropped the ball. Nicholas Wilson says, wow, talk about an industry that's out of ideas. I honestly think that isn't enough goodwill left for the franchise for people to care. This is Suicide Squad again. No one wanted the reboot because the first film poisoned the franchise. So you think the current MCU is so poisoned that it's like the first Suicide Squad movie? Dang. Because people hated that movie. Do you guys remember how much hype there was going into that film? And then how much just hatred there was coming out of it? If that's what the Marvel is turning into, that would be very sad. The Couch Potato Watches TV, I like that name, says, the MCU is an incredibly dead... Wait, no it's not. The MCU is incredibly dead, incredibly beaten horse, and it's time to move on. I don't think it's dead yet. I think it's dying. But it's not dead yet. I think... There's some juice in the can. I think, like I said, if they do X-Men right, they can still go on and just do X-Men movies for like the next 10 years. They still have Spider-Man. They're not Star Wars. They're not dead yet. But they are dying. They are dying for sure. So to that point, I agree with you. But anyway, thank you everyone who commented here. These were great comments. Some of them were more wild than others, but I appreciated all of the comments. They were very great. Thank you for being members. This has been a great member chat. A very memorable member chat. This has been great. Thank you. So I do have WTF news, and that is the very last thing we have for today, and then I'm signing off for tomorrow because we are way over time. But I did want to share WTF news for you guys today. The first thing, we have a long-lost audition for Britney Spears from The Notebook. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but she's actually very good in it, and Britney Spears can act, and it's just kind of sad, because as someone pointed out, it's like, wow, the Britney Spears that could have been, if she, other decisions had been made in her life. Because she used to be wildly talented. She could sing and act, dance. I mean, it's just very sad. I mean, she even starts to break down, crying. Like, I highly recommend you guys watch the audition. She's actually very good in it. I had no idea Britney wanted to be an actress once upon a time. She could have been in The Notebook. She would have been, she would have been the main lead there. That would have been a very different movie, I think, but could have been interesting. But the other WTF news is this. Have you guys seen The Rock's Madame Tussauds wax museum person? Everyone's been clowning him because everyone's like, that does not look like The Rock, and his skin is like 5 shades too light. This does not look like The Rock, and there's been such like uproar over it that even The Rock had to respond. He says that he will be asking the Griffin Museum to update his wax figure. So it's not Madame Tussauds, it's the Gravin Museum. But he's asking the museum to update his wax figure with some important details and improvements, starting with my skin color. But I thought this was pretty funny because, yeah, this does not look like The Rock. When I saw this picture, I was like, who the F is that? Yeah, I'm glad that he's gonna say something, because what in the world? Yes, you did, Joshua. It's Mr. Clean. Oh my gosh, you're right. It's Mr. Clean. He does look like Mr. Clean. Yeah, I'm sure The Rock is like, I do not look like Mr. Clean, okay? They did The Rock so dirty, it looks like Vin Diesel. He does kind of look like Vin Diesel. Oh man, that's awful. You're right. He looks almost more like Vin Diesel than he looks like The Rock. Like, oof, this is bad. This is very bad. Okay, Nicholas think it looks like The Rock. I don't know. I disagree. I'm sorry. But anyway, that was the last thing. I just had to quickly share that with you guys. I'm way over time. But we had a good discussion today. Thank you everyone for joining my show. I will see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll talk more movies then. This has been great, everyone. Stay wild and crazy, I guess, especially Joshua. Thank you for depressing everyone. I'll see you tomorrow, and that'll be it.